You've seen them, and if you're from the South, you probably even know someone who has one in their yard. Take a tree, preferably a crepe myrtle, and just start shoving empty bottles over the ends of the branches. If you're a traditionalist, you're going to use blue bottles, but if you're more artistic, you can use damn near any color bottle. And the result is a southern bottle tree. You'd probably be surprised just how long man has been using and making things with glass. Long before he could make molten glass himself, he could occasionally find small pieces of decorative clear glass in the desert, the remains of where meteorites had imploded in the silica-rich sand millions of years earlier. We can see samples of this in King Tut's tomb. This yellow piece in the center of the necklace was found there. Man-made glass dates back to roughly 3500 BC in the Middle East, with the first hollow shapes being created somewhere after 1600 BC in Egypt and Mesopotamia. Glass production advanced dramatically, becoming an important trade good throughout the Mediterranean world, particularly for the Phoenician Empire, later on the Greeks and the Romans. By 100 AD, clear glass is being produced in Alexandria, and the Romans began mass producing both cast and free-blown glass objects using tank furnaces. These tank furnaces were large, and they could hold as much as a ton of melted glass at one time. These are early Roman bottles recently sold at auction at Christie's. These bottles were obviously designed as much for their aesthetic appeal as for their utility. The bottles themselves range in color from pale blue-green to brown and are both spherical and bell-shaped with long tapering necks. Several of the bottles have a separate decorative rope lip applied around the mouth, and those mouths may be the start of the real story of our bottle trees. The wind blowing across the tops of these bottles produced an eerie sound that obviously had to be the work of demons or evil spirits. This is roughly the same time that stories of genies and bottles started appearing. And yes, this is where the popular stories of Aladdin's lamp or the genie in the bottle started. The bottles, and the belief in trapped spirits, made their way south into Africa, eventually reaching the Congo, where there was already a custom of decorating the graves of family members with plates and various other household goods, called grave goods. It was here that the custom of bottle trees was born, and when slaves were brought to the New World, they brought the custom with them. The logic of bottle trees is easy to understand. The light of the sun shone through the glass, attracting the evil spirits that are always lurking around homes. Once inside, the spirits are caught pretty much like a fly in a bottle. Can't get their way out again until the intense sunlight of the morning kills them. You can think of this as a kind of home security. Spirit-catching bottle trees around a house would protect you from the evil that was outside of your home. It didn't take long before the plantation slaves were placing bottles on trees, especially crepe myrtle trees. They probably picked this tree because the crepe myrtle is linked symbolically in the Old Testament with slaves seeking their freedom. And the custom spread and endures to this day, though you don't normally see bottles on crepe myrtle trees anymore. Before some damn Yankee says something about the quaint customs of southern hillbillies, I should point out that at the same time those stories of genies were spreading south into Africa, a related custom was spreading north into Europe, eventually reaching England. Witch balls were round glass balls containing a single strand of hair or string. Hung in windows to catch the morning light, an inquisitive witch would enter the ball and become entangled with a strand of hair or string that was usually left inside the ball while being made. Unable to escape before the sun killed them, The witch dies in the morning sun pretty much the same as the bottle tree. European immigrants brought this custom to New England, and if you go to New England, these witch balls are still being made in old glass foundries to this day, 300 years after the tradition was introduced. Sometimes these witch balls are called watch balls or gazing balls, and this is the source of those strange, shiny bowling ball things you see atop pedestals in people's yards. I'd be willing to bet serious money that the majority of the people who have these things in their yard have no idea of the tradition behind them. If you spend any time at all on the internet looking at photos of bottle trees, you'll notice that about half of them use blue bottles, cobalt blue bottles. About 5,000 years ago, someone accidentally noticed that if you added tiny little lumps of various metals to molten glass, you got pretty colors. I can just about picture it. Groups of Bronze Age glassmakers running around trying to find something different and interesting to throw into that vat of molten glass just to see what would happen. This is probably one of the history's very first hold my beer and watch this moments. Eventually, someone tried a small lump of brittle gray cobalt and got a beautiful blue cobalt glass for his trouble. It only takes about an ounce of cobalt per ton of molten glass to produce this incredibly beautiful blue color. Today, you can pretty well tell the age of a bottle tree just by looking at the bottles and the branches. If there is a pretty blue rectangular bottle, then it was made before 1980, back when the Phillips Company was still selling milk and magnesia in glass bottles. If there's a straight-sided Sky vodka bottle up there in the branches, it was made after 1992 when the distillery was founded. Bottle trees are the epitome of Southern folk art. Well, they were the epitome for a couple of hundred years. Today they are so popular you can find them just about anywhere, including in all 50 states. I spent a little time amusing myself doing Google searches like Boston bottle tree and found 8 of them in the city of Boston. There are 12 of them inside New York City, not counting the ones I found in the Bronx. You can find them in London, Paris, Hong Kong. Well, to be fair, I couldn't actually find one on display in Hong Kong, but they make them there and sell them on Amazon as a kit. There's just about no place where you can't find a bottle tree anymore. This beautiful red example is at the 2018 Royal Horticultural Society Chatsworth Flower Show in England. There are bottle trees in just about every country that you can search for nowadays. They're probably no longer even considered Southern art in most of the world. This is a photograph sent to me by Ted Morris, a good friend of mine. He was stationed in 1973 at Diego Garcia Atoll. Now today this is a naval and air force base in the middle of the Indian Ocean, far from anyone. In 1973, while the base was being constructed, someone made a bottle tree out of the liquor bottles that the government sold the servicemen cheap. I doubt that very many people are still making bottle trees in order to catch evil spirits. If they were, they'd be all over Washington, D.C. and surrounding Hadley Hall. Maybe bottle trees are popular today because Eudora Welty, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author, took a photo of a bottle tree in front of an old Southern house. The photograph and the image inspired the short story Livy, which she later wrote. Solomon had made the bottle trees with his own hand over the 9 years, and labor amounting to about a tree a year, and without a sign that he had any uneasiness in his heart, for he took as much pride in his precautions against spirits coming in the house as he took in the house, And sometimes in the sun, the bottle trees look prettier than the house did. Maybe. Bottle trees are certainly popular. Maybe bottle trees are popular today because, like the artist Jenny Pickford said, she is holding glass up to the light where it can sing.